Thank you very much. Further debate? I recognize the member for Sudbury for his maiden speech in the Ontario Legislature.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very pleased to rise today to speak to the government estimate, specifically Government Order Number 13, Concurrence and Supply for the Ministry of Finance. However, Mr. Speaker, before I get into this debate, I hope you'll indulge me as a tradition in this place. This is my inaugural speech in this great chamber as the MPP for Sudbury. And I would like to take a little time to acknowledge the people of Sudbury who put their trust in me to come back here and be their voice for them once again, and a few people that helped me get here as well. Now, Mr. Speaker, I think all of us are here, no matter from which party we represent, and we all know that we couldn't do this without the support of our families. Well, Mr. Speaker, it's the same for me. There is absolutely no way I could have done this without the support from my wife and two daughters, Trinity and Thea. Mr. Speaker, my wife and two daughters, they were my rock throughout this whole campaign, and as long as I knew if they were good, I was good, Mr. Speaker. And while all of us politicians are very used to the back and forth of politics, we build the skin for it, as I say. Many forget that our families also have to deal with this back and forth as well. And while that many of us might find that easy to deal with, it is extremely difficult for some of our families. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I want to take the time to thank my wife, Yolanda, and my two young daughters, Trinity and Thea, for their unwavering support. You know, Mr. Speaker, a funny story during the run-up to the by-election and then during the by-election, my wife was extremely busy at work. She's on many community organizations. And one of the things in my household that's very popular is Theatre Cambrian. And my wife was in rehearsals for this play throughout. It's called Nobody But Jimmy, and it's a play about an election of a state congresswoman in which my wife plays the lead role, the congresswoman. So, Mr. Speaker, nothing like giving my wife first-hand experience to bring to this role, except participating in a by-election. So we had great opportunities and some fun stories to share, and hopefully she'll be able to take this with her when the show premieres in April. But you know, Mr. Speaker, my wife not only has a full-time job and gives back to the community, and she also has to look after my two daughters quite a bit, driving them to swimming, dancing, you name it. That's the thing that our partners do while we're here. And as I mentioned, Theatre Cambrian is something that is also very important to my family. And my two daughters, I should mention, just finished performing in The Who's Tommy. And I know I'm a little biased, Mr. Speaker, but my two daughters actually did some phenomenal performances in that. So I just wanted to acknowledge them for that great work.
We know that for sure. Kick off the old block.
But there were so many people that were involved in that production, Mr. Speaker. I should mention that all of them were volunteers, and that these people volunteer their time to give back to their community. And I think it's the same with election campaigns. Mr. Speaker, everyone in this House knows well, campaigns are also not possible without strong performances and strong teams of dedicated and loyal volunteers. I was lucky, Mr. Speaker, to have a very dedicated and loyal team. I'm filled with gratitude for every hour they put in, for every door they knocked on, and for every call they made, because, Mr. Speaker, this by-election wasn't easy. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if you've ever been involved in a by-election, but they're quite unique. And I have to tell you, Mr. Speaker, that having a by-election in Sudbury is unique, but having a by-election in Sudbury in January and February is even more unique. There's nothing like getting outside and knocking on doors in minus 38. So to all the core of my team and to all of the volunteers, I want to say thank you for everything you did in this campaign. I want to say thanks for being engaged in the political process and for believing in me and what we want to do for the people of Sudbury and for the people of this great province. I also want to thank the other candidates, Mr. Speaker. They all brought forward some great ideas, and without them, we couldn't have had such a great by-election and such great debates. And I also want to recognize the Progressive Conservative candidate, Paula Perroni, who ran a second time after beating cancer, Mr. Speaker, and I think we all need to give her a huge round of applause.
Great courage. Great courage.
As well, Mr. Speaker, I would be amiss if I didn't want to take the opportunity to thank my father for his unwavering support as well. And I should mention, Mr. Speaker, that during this campaign, my father celebrated his 101st birthday. Yes, and we were lucky enough, Mr. Speaker, to have the Premier drop by for some birthday cake and wish him well on his 101st birthday. And yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm looking around, and I know most people are now doing the math in their heads, as my colleague was just doing over here. I'm 45 years old. That means my father was 56 when I was born.
Never too late.
Yeah, and his friends used to joke often that he was the only person they knew that was getting old age security and baby bonus at the same time. But people my age don't get to hear about the Depression or the Second World War from their grandfathers, let alone their fathers. And I'm thankful, Mr. Speaker, to still have him around to give me some advice and to share his perspective. And I get his perspective often. Even if it's something great that we can do or something that's not so great, I'm just honored to be able to have my father around to be able to share those stories with me. Also, Mr. Speaker, in just 6 days from today, it would have been my mom's 88th birthday, and we lost her just over 5 years ago. And I don't think there isn't a day that goes by where I don't think about her. But I still want to thank her for instilling in me the values of family, hard work, and dedication to a cause, which is something she always shared with me and my 3 sisters, Vicky, Irene, and Dee Dee, which we then share and pass down to our families as well. And it's the history of family, Mr. Speaker, that is quite important to each of us, as it makes us who we are. And it's the history of this great place, Mr. Speaker, this legislature, that I stand here today with humility. And I'm very conscious of the history of these walls, Mr. Speaker. And it's with a strong commitment to live up to the expectations of those people of Sudbury that have placed their trust in me and sent me here, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, as I stand here, I can see the tremendous opportunities that are present in my riding of Sudbury in Northern Ontario and Ontario. If I look at my great riding of Sudbury, the opportunities are endless, from research and development, innovation, science, research, forestry, mining, tourism, just to name a few. We also have the great institutions of Laurentian University, College Boreal, and Cambrian College, in which the President and Vice President of Cambrian College are here with us today. Thanks for joining us. I also should mention, Mr. Speaker, that I am a graduate of Cambrian College and very proud of that as well. Mr. Speaker, under the guidance of this Premier, this government is building on Ontario's strong economic fundamentals and outpacing the US, the UK, and the Great Lakes states in job creation. We've seen that as well in Sudbury, Mr. Speaker, where Sudbury's economy is again strong and it's showing its strength, as the unemployment rate dropped 3.2% from a recessionary high of 9.3% to 6.1% below the national average, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as I went door to door, many of the people of Sudbury shared their positive responses with the way our economy is unfolding. And within these government estimates are just the start of that, Mr. Speaker. Many have spoken to me about doing more, and I know that's our government will do that, Mr. Speaker. Many small business owners in my community like our plan for growth and for keeping our recovery on course to ensure we can create more opportunities for them and for all of Ontario, Mr. Speaker. Our economy will continue to move forward with a steady, balanced approach, Mr. Speaker, and that will create jobs not only in Sudbury, but right across the province. And we will do this, Mr. Speaker, by investing in skills and training. This will help the people of Ontario get good jobs and succeed at work. We are investing in them, Mr. Speaker, from their first job to their next job. We're going to invest in transit and transportation, Mr. Speaker. This will help reduce congestion and protect our environment. We're going to invest in infrastructure. We'll build more and renovate more schools, hospitals, and roads. Specifically on financial investment in infrastructure, this government has already committed $26.7 million to build Maley Drive in my city, Mr. Speaker.
Great project.
It is. It is a great project. Along with $1 billion to complete the 4-laning of Highway 69. Not only does this make our roads safer, Mr. Speaker, it also creates hundreds of jobs and changes the perspective of Sudbury's economy to the businesses in the south of this province, as then we will be connected to the 400 series of highways. And of course, Mr. Speaker, investing in strategic partnerships with business in order to attract investment and compete in a global economy. And we're seeing those investments already, Mr. Speaker. Ontario is first in North America when it comes to foreign direct investment. Our government is partnering with businesses, large and small, in Sudbury and across the province. For example, Mr. Speaker, the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund has approved over $148 million in funding for close to 900 different projects, leveraging nearly $600 million from the private sector, which shows, Mr. Speaker, that our economic plan is working in communities across Ontario, including Sudbury. A good example of that, Mr. Speaker, is Sudbury is home to Ontario's newest mine, Vale's Taunton Mine. It is the first mine to open in Sudbury in over 40 years. It represents an investment of $760 million, and by the time it ramps up to full production, 200 more people will have a job. And let's not forget the investment of the Clean Air Project. More investment. Glencore, Xstrata, and its nickel rim operations. Just these investments alone are not only helping Sudbury's economy, but Ontario's economy as well, Mr. Speaker.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
I will. Thank you very much.
Don't take a pause.
Mr. Speaker, it's many of the small and medium-sized business owners that I talked to during the campaign that I think of when I'm speaking here, Mr. Speaker. They talk about how we're seeing growth in many sectors and how others need a little bit more help. I think of the small business owner like Thibeault, who started a small software company that now has orders for his software from all over the province. Kearney Business Supply, been around our city for decades and continuing to grow. Dalron Construction, John and Ron spoke to me about how often they want to continue to see our city develop, and how this government is continuing in investments like infrastructure, transit, and healthcare will make Sudbury and Ontario even stronger. I can think of the 17,000 plus men and women that work in the mining, supply, and services sector in Sudbury. They all work for small and medium-sized enterprises that are making a difference, not only by creating the good-paying jobs for thousands, but investing in our community through charitable events, for example.
United Way.
Just this past weekend, I saw the Grossi family out in an event to raise money for a local charity. So not only do they own and operate Anmar Mechanical and Technica Mining and many, many others, Mr. Speaker, these people also find the time to give back with more than just dollars, but also with their time. That is why, Mr. Speaker, many of these great businesses in my riding of Sudbury applaud our government's actions when it comes to the economy. For example, Mr. Speaker, the business education tax reductions have been accelerated and fully implemented for Northern Ontario businesses. So businesses in my riding have benefited from a BET cut of $8.6 million, or an average cut of 26.2% based on current estimates, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, it is clear in the by-election that the issues of jobs and growth and maintaining our current course for recovery was a priority for the voters of Sudbury. The people of Sudbury liked our 10-year economic plan. Many of those initiatives start with the government estimates that we're talking about today, Mr. Speaker. It is our plan that will provide the tools Ontario needs to seize the opportunities in changing the economy, starting with $130 billion in infrastructure investments. It is amazing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if this government that sees the opportunities in the ring of fire, that is why our government is taking a smart, sustainable, and collaborative developmental approach in the ring of fire, which demonstrates another example of our government's strategic approach to realize the multi-generational economic component of this project. Our government has established a development corporation that will accelerate infrastructure development and provide a business structure for decision-making. That is why we are calling on the federal government to partner with us through this development corporation to build the vital infrastructure for this region, which will not only benefit Northern Ontario and cities like my riding of Sudbury, but all of Ontario, Mr. Speaker. Our government is setting tangible benchmarks so we can drive this opportunity worth $60 billion for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, I have had the opportunity now to sit in both this House and for over 6 years in the House of Commons, representing the good people of Sudbury in both capacities. And I have to say, Mr. Speaker, the honour of such a role never diminishes on me, ever, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to be able to stand in this place and talk about government estimates, to debate ideas, and come up with solutions to make my riding and our great province better for all is something I never take for granted, Mr. Speaker. So as my inaugural speech in this place, slowly comes to its conclusion. First off, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me some leeway today to veer off the debate topic a little bit. To my honourable colleagues in this place, to being able to listen to my speech and give me some encouragement, so thank you to all. To the people of Sudbury for giving me their trust once again and voting me into this place. To my family, friends, and volunteers who gave of their time, thank you. Truly, Mr. Speaker, it is my honour to serve, and I now look forward to the question and answer period if that exists. But merci, monsieur, et bonne chance à tous. Merci.